Alright, so in the previous lesson, we finished building our, rock and sand texture. So what I want to do now, as I had said, is I'll export this, I'll bake out the maps, and then I'll export this to Substance Painter, and we'll build like a final texture out of it, like a usable shader. Okay, so I'm going to use Substance Painter and Alchemist both, because Alchemist also has a few tools that sort of really help out. I was going to use Quixel Mixer, but Mixer is still not fully developed. Like it still has some limitations, especially like it can't do any kind of baking. So you have to bake everything outside and bring it into Mixer. But also from like a tool standpoint, or like the number of filters available, it's not really sort of up to the mark where you have something like Substance Painter. So if you are genuinely into, like texturing and stuff, I think it's better to have access to the Substance suite, because that gives you a lot of things. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have already written out the maps, okay, which is, I have written out 4 of them, right? Like I have the 4 or the 3 masks on it. So I have the dunes and the rock mask and the rock and the height. Okay, so I've written out these 4 and the debris. Okay, so I wrote out like those 5. I didn't use the debris eventually, but I've just written it out anyways. The only thing you want to do is make sure that the height is written out to EXR, like full 32-bit, because that will make sure like since I use Octane a fair bit, Octane tends to give you banding if you're not using a 32-bit image. A lot of others won't, but Octane does that. But anyways, like it's better to have a 32-bit image if you're doing displacement. Okay, and then make sure like you pick up the channel in all 3, and then you make sure that you have auto remap on. Now I wrote this out as 2K, but I think 4K is better. Okay, but anyway, so I have height and dunes and rock mask and rock. The other 3, you can just write those out to 8-bit, okay, because they're just masks. It doesn't really matter. Okay, now another thing that I also did was I converted this to polygons, and I also exported, the base geometry. This is about 3 million polygons. Okay, so what I did was I scaled it down to like 0.01 to match it to like an existing grid. Now, the only thing you need to remember is the UV project, like the map that the UV project generates, the UV map, doesn't match the one you get on the height field. It's weird. Okay, so just to show you, like if I just do a UV project, I have this. Okay, like I can just do initialize, and this is basically what will generate. Okay, and if you look at the UV quick shade, you'll notice that it's flipped. And then if you look at the UV quick shade on the terrain, and it doesn't match anything, right? Like here you can see like the ABCD starts here, like it's like 2, 4, 6, 8, and here firstly it's flipped, okay, and it's like in a completely different direction. Like you have 2, 4, 6, 8 going here, and like upside down. So what I realized was like the default it will generate, it will be like 90 in X. Okay, which does not help at all. So what you need is -90 and -90 in Y and Z. Okay, and then that will match your height field. Okay, see, so now it's like, ABCD over there, and you have like, see that 2, 4, 6, 8, now it matches. Okay, so you can right click and then, save it out as geometry once this part is done. Okay, so this is as far as, the basic baking and everything is concerned. I'm assuming you know how to bake. I mean, this is not really a height fields class, but I'm assuming you know how to use the height field output node. Okay, if you don't, I'm pretty sure you'll find enough tutorials for it. But it's not complicated, right? Like just put in the channel and then put in the name and hit save to disk. That's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm going to close this because I don't want like this thing eating up memory. Okay, so now we are in Substance Painter. So what I'm going to do is let's start off with, I'll click new, I'll pick up the grid. Okay, make sure you turn off auto unwrap and import cameras. We don't need those. Just do okay, and we have this. So like you can try painting on it and you'll see it works. So the first thing is I'm going to import the maps that we've written. So what I have is, yeah, I have these guys, like everything called Rocky, so from all the way from here to there, I'm just going to do a drag drop in here and then select all of them and make them as texture. And we'll import it to current session and hit import. Yeah, so if you come to textures, you should have like, see, there you go, you have like Rocky. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we also want to bake the high-res geometry data onto our basic grid. So come to texture sets and go down and you'll find bake mesh maps. So click on bake mesh maps. I'll set this to 4K because I want it fairly detailed. And then click here and pick up Rocky. Okay, so this is about this is about 500 MB. Okay, max rear distance is fine. I'm going to increase the max frontal distance to 1. I don't really know how high it is, but that's fine. Okay, bake everything except the ID. Like there's no material ID on it, so there's no need to bake it. But yeah, the rest is fine. So just say bake selected texture and there you go. Like the nice thing is it works pretty fast. Okay, so it's like if you're doing baking work, use Substance Painter. Okay, or I don't know, you can, if you have Substance Designer, because it will work, like it will bake like 10 times faster. So unless you're baking something custom, like, height field baking is fast, but normal geometry baking, I find Substance Painter to be, much faster. Unless you're baking attributes, then of course Substance Painter is not going to support attributes. So those things you bake in Houdini, and then the standard stuff just bake here. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to take a solid layer. I'm going to get rid of that. I want to make this darker and also make it rough. And what I want to do is I just want to take the height map. So if I come in here, I have Rocky height, I'm going to drop it in there. And like if I turn it on off, you'll see that, like let me turn off color. You can see a slight effect of the height happening. Like if I zoom in close, you'll see like, the shine kind of changes. But what I want is I want to see displacement. So come in here to shader settings, this pyramid icon, and then you'll find displacement. So just turn it up and change it to edge length, and there you go. So now you have displacement. We have our basic, rocky terrain. Now let's just start setting up, the basic stuff here. So I want to change this color to maybe like a sand-like color, like a little bit desaturated. Okay. So the first thing we'll set up is, let's set up the dunes. So I'm going to add another fill layer, and this will be, slightly rough like that. And let's do a couple of things. So firstly, I want a mask, and I want to take the dunes as a mask. Okay. So let's take this color and we'll make it slightly darker. Okay, a little more rough like that, a little bit towards, and then, yeah, I think this is okay. And then right click here and take bitmap mask, and then we can try to type in dune and it might show up. There you go, rocky dune. So there you go. Okay, like if I press C, see, that's what you're getting. Like this is standard and this is, okay, you can shift and right click and drag to see the, to rotate the environment. So you can like change the lighting. Okay, let's see if we can do something a little more with this. I'm going to come into height and let's take 3D Perlin. Okay, no, that's way too much. Let's come into height and lower the amount. And I also want to let's just increase the scale here. Yeah, so that will give me, maybe more. Let's make it triplanar. Okay, there you go. See, so this is more, it has a little bit of grain to it. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay, so this is fine. Now let's build up the rock. Okay, so I can take another solid layer and I'll do right click, add bitmap mask, and we'll look for rock. Yeah, let's look for rocky, and we'll pick up let's pick up rocks. Yeah, or no, let's pick up the other one. Yeah, so it goes like, all the way down till there. Let's make this dark. Okay, and let's also do one more thing. We'll take the fill layer and we'll multiply it with a generator. So let's take a generator and we'll pick up curvature. Yeah, see, so that sort of mixes with this, but let's just keep it to multiply. So it's only mixing with, the rock area, and then we can adjust the curvature. See, so this is nice, like you can kind of blend it with the existing stuff. I just want to try something. I want to take this and add like a second fill layer, and let's pick up mask. Let me just do an invert or something on this. Let's try levels and we'll hit invert. Yeah, okay. There you go. So you don't have the sand, like the sand is happening here, it's not happening over there. Yeah, which is basically what I wanted. Yeah, so the stones don't have, the grain showing up. Okay, as a final thing, what I want is, this I always like, which is, there's something called metal edge wear. I'd used it, previously as well. So I'm just going to take this and, keep it around there, and just right click, take a mask and change this to generator and pick up metal edge wear. And there you go. It's really nice. It gives you like this, nice pattern on top of it. And what you can also do is take the height value and just adjust it a bit. Positive or negative, it'll look nice. I think negative is slightly better. There you go. Yeah, this is good. Okay. So you can just, sort of like pan it around and see what it looks like. What you can also do is, Substance Painter has like iRay inbuilt. So you can click here, this little camera icon, and it switches to iRay. And there you go. You can see your final, texture. You can do a few things, like I can come down and we'll turn on clear ground, and then the ground has like a negative height, so we'll just up it till that actually looks nice. But yeah, just up it till it sort of is just below this, and there you go. It's GPU based, so it's pretty fast. You get a decent result out of it overall. Yeah, this is because of the displacement. I think like there isn't enough detail in the displacement. Like what you can try to do is come to shader settings. This is not a smart idea, but take the max edge length, and you can try to, like, if you lower it, see, there you go, you get more detail. Okay, and the higher it is, the less the detail you get. See, there you go. So get it to around like 64, and that will give you enough detail. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So this is your, basic shader that you want. Okay, so now what I can do is, yeah, this is weird, but fine, So now let's write this out, and I'll set it up in Octane. I'm going to set it up in Octane standalone because it's easy to do it there. Okay, and then we'll see if we're getting any seams or anything. Okay, I know we're going to get a seam, but just to sort of, look at it. So I'm going to click here and do export texture, and I'll pick the folder. Okay, so I have a folder called Rocky, and what I want to do is, I just want to change one thing. I want to take this height and I want to change it to EXR. Yeah. Okay, the rest of them are fine. We can keep them at 8-bit and hit export, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to go into Octane. I'm not going to attach the substance file because Substance Painter files are generally like massively huge. Okay, so I'm going to just leave it up to you, because I think this file itself will be about 500 or 600 MB. Okay, like substance files traditionally end up being like really massive. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have this basic scene which I have built. Let me close Substance. I'll save this just in case if I need it later. So I'll call it like Rocky 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do is Octane now gives you like some inbuilt primitives. I'll take a sphere, I'll give it a size of 1, and I'll give it like 4 subdivisions, so it's smooth enough. And now I can take we'll take a universal material, which is like a, like an Arnold standard material, and we'll start off with an RGB texture, and I'm going to pick up the base color and I'll drop it to albedo. And the next thing would be take a grayscale texture and we'll pick up metallic is black, so it doesn't matter. Let's pick up roughness, another grayscale texture. Let's pick up the displacement. We'll set it up in a while. And the AO is fine, I don't need the AO right now. We need the normal map. Okay, so let's pick up a RGB texture and we'll pick up the normal map. So I can just take this and drop it into normal. Yeah, okay. And then let's pick up vertex displacement. I'll set it to 0.15. I'll set it to a subdivision of 1. And we can just plug this in and that goes into displacement, and there you go. Okay. Now the other thing I want to do is I just want to adjust the tiling. So just take 2D transform and I'm just going to plug it into each one. So I can just, control all of them together. Yeah, okay. And I'm going to take the scale in the X and make it 0.5. There you go. So this is fine. Let me just see if I can find a seam somewhere. If you don't, then it's good. Seems to be okay. Hold on. Let me just try and change this to sRGB. Okay. I'll get rid of the grid in the background. Okay, seems to be fine. I had gotten a seam last time, but it seems to be okay right now. I don't know what I changed, but something worked. Okay, let's do one thing. I'll just show it anyways because, I had faced that issue, previously. So I won't save this. I'll show you the previous file that I had, okay, where I did see a seam. Yeah, so this is the one that I had previously built. And I had, there you go. Like you can very easily see it here. See, there's the seam. So if you do end up getting a seam, the best way to remove a seam is to go through Substance Alchemist. Okay, so I'll just show you how to do that. Okay. So if you've never used Substance Alchemist, I have like an intro video on my YouTube channel. You can go through it. Substance Alchemist is sort of like if you have a shader and you want to just modify that shader using a bunch of filters. It's kind of like think Photoshop, but for modifying shaders. Okay, so it's not as complicated as Substance Designer, which is like, you're suddenly dealing with Houdini. And it's not, you can't paint in it. So it's not Substance Painter either. So it's sort of like a middle ground, where if you just want to quickly make variations of an existing shader, that's where Substance Alchemist comes into play. Okay, so the way we'll start off is I'm going to come into tools and you'll find, or hold on, I just need to find this. Yeah, so you'll find, if you come into tool, you'll find base material. So take a base material and drag and drop it. Okay, and then what you need to do is come into custom channels and just load up everything. So yeah, so I'm going to start off with my base color. Okay, and then we want the normals. Okay, and then we want the height. The height will take the longest because it's a 32-bit image. And then I also want the AO. Okay, and then I want to pick up the roughness. And let's also bring in the metallic. Even though it's just black, it doesn't matter, but yeah. So we have this, okay. And then what you can do is you can come into tiling and I'll make it 2 by 2. And we should be able to see, you can click here, click on the second icon and that's the displacement value. And there you go, there's your seam. That's where your seam is running. So what you can do, like, which is very, very simple, is if you come to this area called scan processing, and it has this wonderful little tool called make it tile, okay, like, which is pretty much just straightforward. So you just take it and drag and drop it here and it'll just remove that. Okay, so what you can do is you can take like the influence and sort of adjust it, and then you have like a radius within which it works. You can also define like the mask smoothness, but yeah, like in one shot it kind of just makes it tileable, so it's quite easy. Yeah, you can adjust the height matching, so that matches, and then you can do other things on top of it, right? So you can actually you can take things like weathering, and you can add some stuff on top of it. So if you want to pick up, if you want to add some cracks to this, so I can just add some cracks on top of this. See, so it'll add some cracks. Okay. You can define like crack opacity and the the roughness. We can make it darker so we can see them. There you go. You can define how deep they should be, and also like the spread amount of it and overall density. And then if you want to add maybe like dirt on top of it, you can add dirt. Or if you just want to maybe add like you can add like rust on top of it. So maybe that's not a smart idea. Like, don't add rust on top of it. We can add dust. Yeah, I wasn't looking for rust, I was looking for dust. Okay, but there you go. Okay, and then you can define like the quantity of it. You can define like the dust opacity and the depth. So there you go. So this gives you, like it's a very quick way to just, get rid of like some minor seams if you have. Okay. And then if I want, I can change the mesh. Like I can come into the viewer and mesh, and I can change it to sphere, and the option is the same, like shift and right click will rotate it around. But see, there you go. Now you don't have any sort of, patterns over there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So it's good to have access to these two, because you can't build a full shader out of Houdini. Like you could, but it would be like really complicated. Okay, so use it to generate your basic height data and a few masks, and then bring it into Substance Painter or something like that, and then generate like a full shader out of it. Okay, but yeah, because you have access to Houdini, it gives you you can generate more complex variations faster, and then use Substance Painter to do the final thing. Alright, so the next lesson we will go back to looking at noise distortions, and we'll look at stuff like how to mirror noise maps, and then also how to control all the various aspects of a noise map using other textures. Okay, so that's what we'll take a look at in the next lesson.